Welcome to the Catbird Quilts. I'm Kathy Martin. It's a new year, which means resolutions and year in review, and I have a lot to say about it. So stay with me. Okay, so I actually can't stand New Year's resolutions. I don't do them. I often think about them, but I don't do them. And part of that is because I feel like it's a setup. There's the life cycle of a New Year's resolution where you have this, I'm going to lose 10 pounds and give it your best effort for a while. And then there's the inevitable fall off. And then there's the thinking that you can still get it back together and you might have to get it back together. And then at some point, it's a failure. And then there's the abandonment of the New Year's resolution. And not everybody has that experience, but it is pretty common. And so I try really hard not to actually make formal New Year's resolutions. But I do think it is important for us to think through as human beings on this planet what our previous year was like, what was great, so that we can have those successes and celebrate that. And then also ooh, that was not so great. And it might be something we cannot do or avoid for the next year, or it might just be mistakes that need grace, or it might be, this is not working for me. And so I'm going to be making some changes, and some of them are going to impact the channel. So be sure and stay for that. So I was thinking through my year, and I did actually do a little tally, which is why I have notes right here. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It was the year of finishes. I finished 14 quilts, 3 quilted pillow covers, 2 quilted placemats, 1 wall hanging / table runner, and 4 quilted hot pads. Some of those are small things, which thank goodness, because my word. And it's important for me to remark on the fact that, yes, I had 14 quilt finishes, but probably 6 to 8 of those I started in 2023. And isn't that the way that it goes? The successes of one year are sometimes due to the hard work put in the previous year. So the previous year, just for funsies, I only had 3 quilt finishes that year. I have to stop. I absolutely have to stop here and say, if you have no quilt finishes in a year, that is okay, because quilting is slow. And we're going to put a pin in that and come back to that in a minute. In thinking through, I would consider that positives, maybe successes, although some of those came with a cost. It does still leave me with 10 works in progress. That's full quilts that I have started on and not just conceived, like have fabric for and have cut. So 10 works in progress, 6 holiday placemats that did not get finished, 1 Christmas Advent wall hanging that is the bane of my existence, and 1 linen test block that I still want to make something with and don't know what to do with. So not that those are not successes, because having something in the works and unfinished does not make it not a success. But it's important for me to think through, I still have a lot of unfinished work that's out there, and that's okay too. In looking over the landscape of the previous year, what I realized maybe more than anything is how much time I invested in the YouTube channel, in Patreon, and in my quilting projects, both the ones that I did for the channel and the ones that I did just out of my own desire. And I've mentioned it before, I am a full-time pharmacist, so I work full-time and married with children. And so I have responsibilities as a wife and mother. And then here, and then also just my responsibility to my own hobbies / therapy or self-care. And honestly, quilting is that for me. When I need to put back in, a lot of times the thing that I want to do is go to the sewing machine. I think it's fair to say that I'm rarely idle. I don't really stop much. I'm one for pushing. I've always had a high need for a sense of accomplishment. And I'm not ashamed of that. I love that I like to see things through. I like for things to get finished. I was raised in a family that used the phrase suck it up a lot. And so we are gutted out kind of people, which has made me very resilient as an adult. But sometimes it means that I spend time and energy on things that maybe don't warrant the sort of time or energy that I put into them or deserve. I don't know. I don't really like the word deserve. It really bothers me. But I have devoted a lot of time to these things, and I have realized that I have had to say no to a lot of other things that I also would have enjoyed spending my time and energy on. And so I'm at this crossroads where it's so important to me that I am a good steward of my time. So when my older daughter calls me and says, "Do you want to go roller skating?" I want my answer to be what's in my heart, which is yes, and not, "Oh, today's video day." So to that end, we're going to make some changes here on the channel. We're going to go to 2 videos a month. So every other Friday instead of our every Friday, so that I can make some time for the things that are not quilting, but also for quilting. I find myself sometimes devoting my energy to making content for the channel, and actually my own time spent quilting just as a hobby gets the short shrift. And so you may be in the same spot where you work and you have responsibilities both inside and outside your home. And it's easy to let the external things crowd out what is good and life-giving and self-care for those of us that are quilters. And if you also knit or crochet or do other crafts, it's true for those things as well. It's easy, I think, to put those hobbies to the side for the sake of the demands of our lives, when in reality, spending time doing the things that give us life and joy and, sometimes therapy sessions actually gives back in such a way that we're more able to meet the demands of our life. So that's a big one for me this year. So I'm going to make some time so you guys will see me less. But hopefully when you do see me, I will have even more to share with you that will be, well, hopefully enjoyable and maybe instructive, or maybe give you food for thought. I don't know. Whatever it is that comes with my videos, there'll be more of it when you see me less. I've also thought about the actual projects that I spend my time on. And boy, this was a real eye-opener for me. And this is kind of in that gutted out thing. I have a couple of whips that I just no longer have any good feelings about. I don't have any energy for them. I'm not excited about them. And like I said, I'm kind of prone to pushing through for the sake of having that sense of accomplishment, but then it's laborious and tiresome work. And I don't want my quilting to be work, and I certainly don't want it to be tiresome. So I'm really going to work hard to spend my energy in projects that are enjoyable or like just straight fun. I mean, some quilting projects are just fun. They are. But also instructional. Like I love the ones that I learn lessons from, even if they're hard. It's not those projects that suck the life from me. In fact, I think they actually give me life because it gives my brain something to chew on, problems to solve, which I love. But there are some projects that I take on that I find tiresome and draining. And even though I definitely could suck it up and make it through, why? I have lots of maybe not lots. I have some self-imposed projects that I can just as easily unself-impose. And so I think I'm going into 2025 with the attitude of I might willfully abandon a couple of my whips. And so if you find yourself in a place where maybe you have an unfinished project, or maybe you've just started a project and you're like, ugh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. We don't have to do it. We really don't. This is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. If you're making a memory quilt for someone and they've asked you to do it and they're paying you for it, please don't abandon that. But, there are some projects that I think I need to shelve and be okay with shelving and not have a sense of being compelled to finish it just for the sake of finishing. It's okay if I have no finishes in 2025, as long as I'm enjoying and learning from this thing that gives me so much life. This next resolution, it's not a resolution. It's more just like an awareness. It's like a eye-opening awareness of I want to be a good steward of my fabric resources and my family's budget. That's a huge part of who I am as a quilter. You guys know, using men's shirts and sheets and every other thing under the sun from the thrift store with not a lot of money spent behind them is so important to me. And I really like the fact that I'm giving these fabrics a second life. In many cases, I'm saving them from a landfill. So there's a lot of benefit from using upcycled fabric. So I already feel like I'm there, like I'm there. I do sometimes find myself, I say it's a gap in my colorway, like I'm missing that perfect color, and I'll go on the prowl for just that perfect fabric, which although I think that's a noble pursuit, I think probably there are times that a fabric that's already in my stash will work just as well. So I really want to use the shirts that I have already purchased, AKA use my fabric stash, which my fabric stash is a shirt stash. If I'm going to go to the thrift store and buy those shirts and integrate them into my stash, well, then let's use them from the stash. Kind of paradoxically, I realized this year that I really don't enjoy true scrap quilting. And some of you that have been with me for a while are already laughing because you know this to be true. And I talk about how I like curated scrappy, but getting out my scrap bin and sorting it and trying to use those pieces in a quilt, I realized this year it's actually really draining for me. It's kind of exhausting, and I don't find it very enjoyable. Now, I love handling the fabrics, and I love the nostalgia or walking down memory lane of, oh, I love that fabric. But trying to figure out how to use that in a quilt is actually not very enjoyable for me. And I think it's because I like curated scrappy, which some people would say it's because you don't like scrappy. I actually went through one of my scrap bins. So I went through the cool colors, which is the blues, purples, grays, and greens. And I boxed my whole scrap bin in those colors up and sent it to one of the patrons who asked for it, or didn't ask for it, but volunteered to take it. When I tell you it gave me so much life, I felt like, talk about making space. I felt like my whole chest had opened up with air and like the breath of life, because that had felt like a burden to me because I didn't want to squander those resources, but I also really was not enjoying trying to figure out how to use them. And I have since discovered there are lots of people who love scrappy quilting so much that they will take other people's scraps. What? That seems terrible to me. I know even Amy Dement, who has a YouTube channel. If you haven't seen her channel, she's really fun. She loves scrap quilting. That gives her life. It does not give me life. So I'm really going to go into 2025 with are there folks that would enjoy my scraps? If so, up and out, and I'll keep doing my thing and everybody gets to enjoy it. So in my last kind of reflection of 2024 and thoughts about changes for 2025, I realized, and here's where we go back to the pen that I put in earlier. I say it all the time, quilting is slow, and it really is. And I have discovered in these 3 years and some change that I've been quilting, maybe almost 4, I forget and lose track. I really enjoy, well, I enjoy the whole process, except for the quilt sandwich. I mean, the cutting, the pressing, the sewing and paying attention to my seams, the nesting and making sure corners come together, the choosing the fabrics, the choosing the type of fabric. I love all of that. I love it. It's why I love quilting. And I blew through that process on a lot of quilts this year. And that's yes, I have 14 quilt finishes on the books, but at what cost? And some of that cost was me pushing, and rushing. Some of that has been great because sometimes you don't have a lot of time and you need to get it done. And that means that you have a tangled quilt top with pieces that don't come together just right, which is totally fine. But sometimes that means that I cheated myself out of the enjoyment of slowing down and just really reveling in the process. All right, I got to stop. I mentioned that quilting is therapy, and you can hear the emotion in my voice. I know I'm not alone in that. Lots of us have that experience where our worries of life or just difficulties that we face sometimes seem to magically get better after we spend some time at the sewing machine. And what I discovered over this holiday season was that I was really missing my mom. And if you've been with me for a while, I've mentioned previously, my mom passed away when I was 22 of breast cancer. And so it's been many, many years that I haven't had her with me on earth. In these 30 plus years since her passing, I have discovered the ebb and flow of grief for her. The other day, when I was working on my flannel knitted star blocks, which are very small pieces and need a lot of precision and attention, I realized that I had focused and taken the time to do that intricate work, and it made space for that realization of this fresh grief that I'm experiencing. And it was so good. It was so good. It was so needed, and it was such good time spent with myself and my sewing. Though I have this emotion still about it, I feel so much better because I was able to slow down and enjoy my sewing while simultaneously having these very strong, sad feelings of missing my mom. And to me, that really is the beauty and magic of quilting. I don't know what it does. It's like medicine for me. So recognizing that and benefiting from that makes me realize that I want more of that for myself in 2025. I mean, I don't want to be crying at my sewing table, but I do want to slow down and really enjoy each step, because then they become even more meaningful, as if that's possible. But I don't want to rush. I don't want to push. I don't want to fly through, because that's not what quilting is for me. I'm really looking forward to doing maybe fewer projects this year intentionally, but enjoying the whole process more, having time in my life to do, in some ways, more quilting and in some ways less quilting, reading books and roller skating and going on lawn drives with Paul in our neighborhood and that kind of thing. But also spending time and energy on projects that I really enjoy. And then in the microscopic part of those projects, enjoying just the really small details of it. And then at the end of that finish, at the end of 2025, and I say this really even about last year, who cares how many quilts I finished? Who cares how many projects I still have left? Did I enjoy or learn from, or both, the projects that I chose to invest my time and energy and enjoyment in? And I think that will be the marker of success for 2025. So I invite you to come along, hopefully again with me in 2025. I'll see you a couple of times a month, hopefully with new insights, new mistakes that I've made, learning, trying to figure out this wonderful quilting world that we exist in. And I just am delighted to be here with you. I hope that it continues. You're welcome to join me on Patreon. There's no expectation. You don't have to do that. But we have a lovely community of supportive quilters, from brand new quilters to many-year quilting veterans in our midst. It's a really good group. So if you're interested in that, you can check the link below. I hope this has given you some encouragement or inspiration about maybe your own hurdles in quilting, whether it's embracing the fact that you hate scrap quilting, or maybe you're one of those people who loves scraps and you want my scraps, in which case comment it. But thanks for coming along with me today. I hope you have a wonderful new year in 2025. I'm Kathy Martin. This is the Catbird Quilts. Thanks so much for watching.